I still can't believe what is happening," said Sylvia, looking down from the 24th floor of the new Hilton on Kurfürstendamm in Berlin. "I feel like I'm in a 007 spy movie. Yesterday morning we were camping and building a trail to the beach. In the evening we witnessed a Russian fishing boat launch a nuclear cruise missile right over our house towards Washington. Minutes later we were scrambling like mad to avoid a nuclear war, and now, just over a day is gone by and we're living like royalty in one of the most fashionable centers of Europe, on a mission to save the whole of mankind. Tomorrow, whether we like it or not, we will be ambassadors of the USA, with a challenge to all nations that puts us onto the top of the world. It's unbelievable what is happening. Isn't it? If someone had predicted this 2 days ago, I would have laughed. Gosh. I think we left our shovels and the chainsaw on the beach," said Tony. "We didn't even get a chance to take our tools back to camp." "Who cares about chainsaws now?" said Sylvia. "Think of the excitement ahead. Think of the danger of sneaking behind the Iron Curtain, past mounted rifles, smuggling one of their top scientists into Italy for a week. Think of the adventures of floating in gondolas through the canals of Venice, and not least, saving the world from destruction. Who cares about chainsaws in times like these?" She laughed as she said it. "Yes, it's like living on top of the world, all right," said Ross, and took a deep breath. "Indeed it is. Let's drink to that," I added. I had a tray of champagne glasses in my hand that I had just filled. "From Uncle Sam?" Heather asked. I nodded. "Let's drink to Uncle Sam's generosity," said Heather, and took a sip. We all did. "But you have to be careful," added Ross. "It is a narrow, fast-moving place, the top of the world. You need precise footwork, far more than a downhill skier in a race. One slip, and it's game over." Ross raised his glass. "Oh, go on," I said. No. "Jokes aside," said Ross. "You can't evade the fact that there are basic principles involved. If you ignore even one of them, you slip. But if you understand them, you can move with total freedom. That's where the excitement begins. Once you understand the science of what you are dealing with, you can dance circles around anyone. You can face the guns and think nothing of them. You might even feel compassion for those who feel compelled to carry those guns." "Let's drink to the principles," said Tony, raising his glass. "Let's drink to dancing on top of the world." "I think what we are doing here is just as crazy as our Wreck Beach project," I said to Tony. "But I love it. I have a feeling that this one is going to work. Do you guys realize that this adventure could be a turning point in history?" said Heather. "Right," I said, and topped off her glass of champagne. We were all assembled on the balcony again that evening. After a few hours of sleeping, we were guests in the brand new Hilton in Berlin. We had 3 rooms on the 21st floor. The sidewalks below us were crowded with people going out to dinner or to the movies or theaters. The glittering lights and the atmosphere of the city didn't reflect that we were in the midst of a Cold War that was fast heating up towards colossal chaos and nuclear destruction. "Whoever has the SDI first controls the world," I overheard Ross telling Sylvia. Sylvia replied, "This is why we are giving it away, gift-wrapped with hugs and kisses, and a ribbon tied around it with love. Diplomacy, as we call it, has all been done wrong in the past," announced Ross, with his glass held high. "It hasn't bought us anything, has it? Diplomacy shouldn't impose itself. Just look at us now. We try our best not to be noticed. No puffed-up superior strength this time. We offer them a gift they've been screaming for, and with no strings attached. Diplomacy has never been like that. We are giving the world away to save it." "Seriously," I said, "what we are doing is something much deeper than has ever been done before. We count our gain in what we give away, and we are sure of our success. We are sure by reasons of a principle that has never been recognized before, except by Steve. Steve always says, we bring to each other our love to enrich one another's existence. This is enough to build unity. Since diplomacy has always failed us in the past, this indicates to me that our diplomacy has not been built on this principle. So tell me, why shouldn't we be able to turn the diplomatic ship around and proceed from a different basis? We are now pursuing diplomacy on the basis of Steve's scientifically discovered universal principle that has already been proven, that has brought us all together. Except when we apply this principle to diplomacy, our diplomacy isn't diplomacy anymore in the standard sense, but becomes a communication that involves something real. We all drank to that, too. We drank to many other acknowledgments as well, and to our bold and glorious venture. "I'm really excited," said Heather at one point, looking down onto the city. The smile this brought to her face reminded me of the days we have had together that seemed so far away now, as if they belonged to another world and another time. I recalled our second evening together. We had come to a small town. We were all worn out from the long drive, Tony, Heather, and I, on our way to Key West. It had been a hot day. The evening remained warm, as one expects in midsummer. The dinner from the night before in Elizabeth City was still on my mind. It had been a grand dinner. The wonderful feeling that I had felt during that dinner at the steak loft had resurfaced many times through the long drive. Indeed, there were few moments during the many hours of driving in the heat when I hadn't thought of Heather and us being together. Then another evening was about to unfold that began almost like a replay of the evening before. By some miracle, though, it got better still. My adventure with Heather soon went beyond my wildest dream. This night became brighter. It developed into something even more beautiful. I was amazed at what was happening. I hadn't dared to expect anything as beautiful, or to imagine that a simple smile could be as bright and feel as warm deep inside. As Heather and I were facing each other on the balcony of the Hilton Hotel in Berlin, those precious days came to mind again, triggered by the same kind of smile, though attached with a new, yet impossible, hope. The precious days we had shared appeared distant now only in time, but not in my memories. I remembered that second evening together as if it had happened just a few days ago. We had been alone at the swimming pool that evening. Tony had remained in his room watching his favorite ball game again. His team had been on a winning streak. He had plenty of beer and potato chips on hand. For him to leave under those circumstances, to go out for supper, or do anything else, was unthinkable. Consequently, we simply lived on snacks that evening, supplemented with egg sandwiches from a deli corner store, something to munch on at the pool. All three of us had chosen the motel for its pool. The pool had looked like heaven after a long day on the road in the heat of the summer, and so did the thought of relaxing in the jacuzzi afterwards. When the jacuzzi became too hot, long after Tony's game had started, we stretched ourselves out on the lounges. The pool looked like an enormous emerald indeed, glowing mysteriously in the dark. We talked about fairy tale wonders, things of this sort, and about us in the same context. "What do you expect will happen to us?" Heather asked at one point. "Will happen?" I repeated, and shook my head. "You mean, is happening?" "The way I feel right now, I couldn't ask for anything better. The best is happening already. I am having the most wonderful feeling when I am with you. It started yesterday since we met. I hadn't known for a long time what it means to be on fire." I turned towards her and smiled. "What more can happen?" I said. "Just looking at you is a joy beyond compare, to see your smile, your wonderful face, your sparkling eyes, your lovely hair blowing in the breeze as we drive, to see your beautiful figure whenever I open my eyes. Just being near you is heaven. Could I ask for more? And the way things go, it seems there is more of this to come the more we get to know each other. Being with you is a treat in every respect." She hadn't answered a word to what I had said. Instead, she raised her shoulders in a cuddly sort of way, and smiled. This said more. I had raised the back of the recliner when we spoke. It was wonderful just to sit there and look at her. What I saw and felt, I had only been dreaming about before, except that I hadn't dreamed tall enough. I leaned back all the way now and then. Leaning back brought me closer to her as she lay stretched out in the recliner next to me, close enough to touch. We must not let go of what we have, I said quietly. Life is so rich. We must let it unfold. We must allow ourselves to be who we are. We owe this to ourselves. Again she didn't answer, but kept on smiling. A traveler once asked a coachman to show him all the best sights in his country. I continued the conversation, not taking my eyes off her for a second. But the traveler was unwise, she said, continuing the story. He imposed on the coachman, turn here. Turn there. In the end the traveler complained bitterly when the coach ended up driving through a garbage dump instead of along a beach, or through a park. Life is full of beautiful things, and of beautiful people, I replied. By what wisdom can we impose on its ways? By asking for more when we have the best already at hand? And most of that, so it seems, lies already within us. Heather began to grin at this point. I could still remember it. She didn't say anything. She just grinned. So I kept on. The traveler tours the world to experience whatever riches the world holds, I said moments later. Sex, too? She asked, still grinning. I shrugged my shoulders. The sum total of what we share is greater than sex. But isn't the lesser a part of the greater? She asked with a sweet gesture as she was inviting me for a kiss. Indeed she was. That opportunity I wasn't inclined to let go by unrealized. I kissed her in reply. Indeed, why should I have resisted that wonderful invitation? I would be a liar to suggest that I wouldn't say, whoopee do. I said to her after the kiss, and followed this up with another kiss. And fooling around? She said, grinning even more. Indeed, coachman, I would answer. Fooling around? Why not? The thought is exciting. Please take us to it. Show us all the best sights. I grinned back at her so much so that my face began to hurt. Love must envelop us in all its ways, she replied, and did this with a wicked kind of smile. Love must be like a sun for its own sake, by its own terms. That's fooling around, isn't it? I nodded. But love might be still more than that, I added. Love begins within us as we fall in love with ourselves for what we are, for the freedoms we are able to claim, and for the wonders we are able to share. This is something we can't fool around with. It is something so precious that we can only embrace each other for, even intimately. With it we enrich one another's life, by sharing our being with one another. When this kind of self-love overflows, in which we embrace one another, then the spark of our humanity, that we cherish deeply in our heart can only lead to a lot of hugging, even sexual embracing. In whatever form this may be appropriate. It has to be that way, don't you agree? For where would one draw the line to hem the sunshine and... She nodded, and grinned. Then we shouldn't resist it, right? She said in her lovely sweet voice. That's how it must be if our life is to be as grand as our love tells us that it might be, I said in as soft a tone as I could. What are your preferences then? She asked, still grinning. Preferences? Sexual preferences? That depends on what the question means, I replied with an even bigger grin. If it means male or female, I choose female. If it means a little or lots of it, I choose moderate. If it means oral, anal, or whatever, I choose oral. If it means kinky or straight, I choose straight. If it means having it with you, or someone else, I choose you, definitely you. I'd love to feel my face between your legs. Oh, you devil. She interrupted, and waved a finger at me. Home is heaven, I said. Its song is endless celebration, its fire the universal kiss, its peace our joy, its vestibule a holy place. Do we need more? Should we aim for less? You're a devil then, who loves to have the universe on fire, she said with a grin. But isn't that the way the universe already is? I said. Isn't every star in the heavens a sun? The heavens are ablaze with the fire of the universal kiss. She grinned. Why wouldn't I love a celebration in heaven then? She said, and laughed. But where shall it be? In my room, or yours? I said and joined her laughter. If this is the choice, I would choose your room since mine is occupied. And if the choice is between now or later, I would choose any time, tonight, this very minute, immediately. My room will do. Heaven should never be distant, she said, and continued to laugh, while standing up. My heaven is yours for the sharing, she said. With her laughter quickly becoming a grin, she punched me gently, and then reached her hand out to help me up. What a daring devil you are. Of course I'd love to feel your face between my legs, she added, and sealed the agreement with a kiss. We both grinned from ear to ear. I didn't say anything more. There wasn't a need to say more. We had left the pool area hand in hand. What had followed that night unfolded into a new dimension of loveliness that I wouldn't want to have missed for the world. For a brief moment the danger of AIDS came to mind and vanished from it. The thought was quickly suppressed as irrelevant. Her motives were powered by love, not by the arrogance of a killer. She was a star, a sun, and a bright new universe to explore. What promise that night held for all the days ahead. And it wasn't an empty promise. That night became the beginning of an explosion of joy that brightened all the days we had had together. We slept together every night after that, cuddled up to each other. The closeness made us feel freer towards one another and lighter towards ourselves. Our journey together became a celebration of life's greater freedoms. Key West, of course, turned out to be the worst place for such a celebration of life. Key West might have been a great place for a holiday, or to retire at, a place for resting and sleeping, but for a celebration of being alive, the town was the most boring place. The town was dead, dull, heavy, just like the Navy's hearing. The only consolation was that a 3-day pause in the proceedings had been scheduled to allow for a weekend party. Officially, the recess was granted to enable people to attend a garden party that was given by one of the wives of the Admiralty. Oh, the torture that implied. We had been hungry for anything except an enforced dull event. Tony came to the rescue that day, like a knight in shining armor. When I told him about our predicament, he began to whistle his favorite tune again, Puff the Magic Dragon, that lived by the sea. In real terms, this meant that he had access to the Uncle Sam's air transport service. He was sure there were regular milk run flights going between Key West and Edwards Air Force Base. He was also sure that with his rank and influential power, as he put it jokingly, he could get us on. With any luck, we can be in Vegas tonight, he said. We'll take the shuttle to Vegas from the civilian airport there. I still remembered how Heather had hugged him for that, with a kiss. What more could I have added in words to thank him? Indeed, we had been lucky. Puff took to the air at 4:30 p.m. I had been out of the hearing. Like a shot, at 3 o'clock sharp, the moment the debriefing was suspended. We arrived in Vegas quite late, but who cared? The night was all ours. What followed became the wildest, most wonderful weekend imaginable. My face hurt from too much smiling. Our days became an unbroken sequence of romance, fancy dinners, musical shows, cabarets full of tempo and zest, swimming, dancing, strolling through casinos that were like living fashion shows. Tony seemed to be happy for us. He didn't seem to mind our sexual attraction to one another. In fact, he seemed delighted. To some degree he became enveloped in it, too. Our embrace became more and more a universal embrace. The food was mostly excellent. However, that didn't seem to matter. Also, the showgirls were everything that Las Vegas stood for, but none of that measured up to the excitement we had with each other. There was something good unfolding between Heather and I. Tony seemed to enjoy being touched by the flow of it all. It was sexual in many ways, but on a more profound level. Being in Vegas was fun, but it became more than that. It became a joy. We even tried gambling once, but that was boring. There was more joy in walking arm in arm through streets filled with dazzling lights than in seeing a few dollar coins being dispensed by the time-consuming, money-eating, one-armed bandits. Every night we came back to the hotel exhausted, hyper, and Heather and I ever more in love. Sex in those days between Heather and I, in the sanctuary of our room, in the double-room suite, became almost a holy event. Something greater was unfolding than what sexuality by itself could inspire. We were embracing each other all night, so it seemed. Even in our sleep the fire kept on burning. The embrace of each other that had brightened our day had simply continued on, except without a thread of clothing standing in the way. It became a case of zero distance between us, an infinite embrace that unfolded into a new definition for Helen's revolutionary concept of the universal kiss. It became an element of a great peace indeed, supported by the warmth of a great fire. Our embrace was far more than a moral embrace. The very idea of morality had been left behind. We had stepped up to higher ground. The moral voice which cries, "Don't do it," had been overruled by an active principle, the principle of universal sovereignty and universal love. Why shouldn't we have allowed this love to unfold? Nothing came into play that violated the integrity of one another, or could have marred this wonderful, infinite embrace, in which the concept of I, or us, became one and the same, and this without any one of us being aware of it at the time it was happening. Tony too was enveloped in this love. On the third day Puff gave us a lift to Tampa for a quick whirl through Disney World, a jungle of rides, imagination, and wonders of all sorts. We spent more time hanging upside down or flying sideways or hugging each other tightly while being jerked around by exhilarating machines than we spent standing on the ground, apart from lining up. Tony and Heather and I became closer to one another than we ever had been. We shared our vacation days away from the Navy, our joys, our laughs. Then we were off again, late after midnight with Puff's early morning flight. We arrived back in Key West just in time for the hearing. That always started at 9 o'clock hours, sharp. One of the Navy officials remarked during the coffee break on what a grand weekend it had been, supposing that I had attended the Admiral's wife's garden party, as apparently everyone had. Half the Navy was there, he commented. I remembered that I had agreed with him. Worn out and tired, as I was, I assured him that the weekend had been one of the finest ever. This wasn't a lie. It was merely a monumental understatement. Of course, the Navy chap had no idea what I was talking about. How could he have had? How could anyone have known what we had shared in those 3 days? We had been in a tipsy for 3 solid days, and 3 nights, too. Thank God for the magic dragon who had rescued us all from the Navy's grand garden party. What to death this would have been. Heather grinned when I mentioned Vegas on the balcony of the Grand Hilton in Berlin. I mentioned that the lights on Kurfürstendamm were nothing in comparison with those that we saw in Vegas. Still, there was a resemblance that brought with it a faint renewal of the excitement that had gripped us then. Do you remember our nights at the Sands? I asked her, and our dinner at the steak loft, when you asked the waiter for ketchup with your Chateaubriand? Hey, you should talk. She smiled. Didn't I see you attack your French onion soup with a fork and a knife? Yes, those were the days, I replied. The finest in a long time that I can remember, said Heather. I feel sorry for your friend Steve, she added. His keen, precise logic and perception of scientific facts must have given him an enormous jump on the kind of freedoms that ordinary people like us have to earn bit by bit. As for me, I love learning. There is so much to be found in the process of learning. Compared to our experiences, his life must have been like a journey in a jetliner at 40,000 feet, with all the comforts of piped-in music, and in-flight meals served with a touch of champagne. I can't help wondering how much of what is so beautifully human he may have missed, like those wonderful little joys, hopes, pains, agonies, and victories that are part of the fun of traveling in small hops, growing up day by day. Don't you agree? I shook my head and said no, for once I knew she was wrong. I suggested to her that Steve might have missed tumbling through a lot of situations that end up in an alleyway of poverty, providing no gain to anyone. I felt that the doors of freedom that his keener insight had opened couldn't possibly have caused him any real loss. To the contrary, he was able to move with lightning speed through the jungle to the precise spot where the riches can be found, and he helped us to do the same. I reminded her that his breakthroughs did not only benefit himself, but have benefited many people, us included. Without Steve's pioneering work, I would never have allowed myself the chance to be with you in the first place. I wouldn't have dared even dream of it, much less go to Las Vegas with you and turn the whole town inside out. Without the scientific perception of universal principles that he opened up my thinking to, I would have been too shy to stop for you on the highway going south. What a tragedy this would have been. I would have never known what it feels like to be 20 years younger in one giant leap, and be on fire, as I was. She smiled, and hugged me briefly, spilling some of her champagne in the process. Unfortunately, what we had may never happen again, she said quietly in a sad tone. We are both too tightly boxed in into a world that long traditions have created for us, the world in which we must live isolated from one another. We are now forced to almost hide our love again behind those boundaries that still stand tall, though written in the sand. We isolate ourselves in the name of love. We have done daring things in our days together, but we haven't won anything, have we? Isn't that also why we are here on this mission? This impotence has been the fate of the world. We are trying to deal with the boundaries that have been erected between the hearts of entire nations by long traditions that have made the world a dangerous place. These shouldn't exist, but it is hard to ignore them, and harder still to deal with them. Yes, they do exist, I said quietly. They exist because love is allowed only in the smallest possible way. It appears that this is all that we are capable of. No one has yet been able to break this barrier. We have been able to take a few tiny steps forward with Steve's help, but the barriers are still there. That is obviously the reason why you could hug me only briefly with Ross and Sylvia being around. We are still boxed in by our desperately small sense of love. It seems like a miracle in this context that you and I can be together at all with Sylvia and Ross standing beside us and them not going nuts over ownership conflicts, as most people would. We surely are still boxed in by the smallness of the world's love that creates this box for us, I said in total agreement. Maybe we should solve this problem for the world. Without us solving it, we may not be able to escape from this smallness in thinking in the world for a long time to come, if ever. What you propose is easier said than done, said Heather. Sure it is. That is also why I am afraid that our SDI mission in Venice, as necessary it appears to be, won't solve anything fundamentally in the long run, because we are still thinking too small. We don't seem committed to the fire for what is right that once had carried us. We aren't looking for a real improvement in any fundamental way in Venice, are we? We are only hoping that the stalemate might continue. The stalemate is all nice and moral, isn't it? But that's the trouble with morality, it's a zero scientific state. Nothing is moving there. There is no fire, no love, no passion for life, and for the infinite. Morality is like the Admiralty's garden party. And soon we'll be hosting a similar party of our own in Venice, and I'm certain that nothing more will come out of that party than came out of the garden party, where everybody bowed, and made nice gestures, and behaved as expected. We are going to do this again, as if it was written in a script, Heather, just wait and see. It will be all superficial, dull, boring, and quite inconsequential. We'll be dancing around the core issue that nobody wants to face head-on. What we are about to do in Venice won't change the fact that all of us have boxed ourselves in with our policy for nuclear weapons defense, our doctrine of mutually assured destruction. We need to have a fundamental improvement. We need to get ourselves out of that box before our mutually assured commitment to total destruction comes true. Unfortunately, our love is too small for that still. There is no fire on the scene. It's all too shallow and superficial for us to build a common bridge to get us all out of this prison. Puff the magic dragon doesn't seem to exist in the wider world that we call the real world. But without this bridge, how can we even hope to build the kind of stage for mankind that we haven't been able to build for a long time? It seems impossible even to maintain the bridge of joy that we once built between our two hearts. We remain standing isolated in spite of our most daring advances, and in spite of the great generosity towards love by everyone here that borders on the miraculous. We haven't achieved a fundamental improvement even with that is built on active principles. The most that we have achieved is an expanded passive accommodation. Hopefully we can step beyond that.